affecting startups and innovation. So let me invite Mike Sachs, founder and chairman of the ACT Association. Erika Maslauskaitė, founder of Delirium and Along ID. Also board member of ACT Association. Remigijus Šimašius, chief strategy officer at Sigma. Also many things in the past and former politician. We all know him very well. And Danielius Stasiulis, co-founder and CEO of Ogvio and board member of European Innovation Council. Guys, thank you for coming to Vilnius, for spending this Friday evening with us and sharing your insights. Maybe let's start just by briefly maybe sharing a couple of sentences about yourself and what is most exciting for you right now in the European policy and how it's affecting our lives. It's kind of like a question you didn't prepare for, so a little curveball, and then we're going to go with our regular questions.
So I guess I start. So actually today is Bitcoin Pizza Day. Do you know what it is? Yeah. A guy paid 10,000 Bitcoin for 2 pizzas. Right now it would be something like 800 million. You know, I would relate that to the fact that the European Union is implementing this MiCA regulation. And this week 2 of my friends crypto companies are shutting down because they couldn't obtain MiCA license. So that's
sorry. Whenever you say acronyms and names of policies, always explain what it is.
Markets in crypto assets legislation that basically was first in the world, I guess, to regulate crypto and in this way clench the innovative spirit of the entrepreneurs in this continent, yet bring security to the end users.
Great. Remigio?
Yeah, European Union regulation and excitement it doesn't fit together in one sentence so well. But yes, there's one thing which is quite exciting right now because we both work on this one. You guys know, I don't know guys how many of you know that IACT is going into force on August 2nd in full force. But yes, the huge bureaucracy, I don't like it at all. But what I like that we are helping companies how to deal with this in a smooth, easy way. Because you know, we have these loads of documents on you, so it's good to have somebody to help you with AI tools. So that's what we are doing, and that makes this kind of terrible thing quite exciting.
For myself, I started in tech in 2009. Actually, I'm the founder of Lithuanian tech ecosystem. With 2 of my friends, we co-founded Login Tech Festival. Now it's the industry that's contributing, I think, 2.3 billion euros to our national GDP. So I've been always passionate about building ecosystems. With that regard, at our company, out of the European grant, we're spin-offing Along ID, which is the cross-border digital identity platform, with a privacy-secure wallet. So wallets are coming into Europe. So starting from 2027, 1st of January, all of the member states in Europe, they would need to accept and introduce national wallets. National meaning we all gonna have the national Lithuanian wallet, where in there we're gonna store our national, digitized passport, which is personal identifiable information asset, also our driving licenses, also our credentials, meaning location, email, and etc. Because Europe said that by 2030 we're gonna digitize all of our services so that we could be as much as cross-border within European Union. But at the same time, there is an ecosystem need that needs to be established on the national level. How are we going to certify those wallets, not only because the national wallet is going to be there, but also the commercial ones. The use case. Now we're verifying ourselves by mobile signature Smart ID. Mobile signature is byproduct of the telco operators, and Smart ID is byproduct of banks. So those are national pan-Baltic initiatives by the commercial parties, right? So Europe is releasing EU ID wallet. So eIDAS as a regulation gonna be foundational to regulate digital identity within European Union.
Lots of excitement.
Yes,
Well,
lots of
let's keep it
excitement.
short, Erica. I guess
Yeah.
this is just an
So
intro.
I just wanted to enhance everybody to follow digital identity and how the ecosystem evolves, and also to challenge that we'd love to have competitive advantage in Lithuania to certify those wallets here, as we did with fintech businesses.
For me, my name is Mike Sachs. I'm founder of the Association for Competitive Technology. The most exciting thing in EU regulation is actually something that happened many months ago. It was called the Draghi Report. The former Prime Minister of Italy, Mario Draghi, was tasked with basically creating a report about EU regulation, EU competitiveness. And he basically said, look, stop adding more regulation, more paperwork, more steps to follow. We need to become more competitive, we need to be more efficient, we need to reduce the amount of overhead and stuff that all companies, big and small, need to deal with. And we need to simplify the EU regulations, because otherwise we're just going to drown in paperwork. And that actually created a completely different shift in mindset for all the regulators in Brussels and in the EU, and now they're working on simplification. Sometimes they feel like the answer to less regulation is actually more regulation, but at least they're thinking about it, and when they are talking to us and we tell them, you know, you say, this is how this affects my business, this is how many minutes or hours I have to spend every month trying to deal with compliance, that I can't deal with, you know, making my product better or helping my customers, then they start getting it and they start thinking about simplification instead of adding new rules and more obligations.
So Mike, here in Vilnius Founders, obviously we have a group of founders here right now. Many of them, you know, probably on average will have anywhere from few, you know, like 2, 3 to 10, 20 employees, maybe 9 months of runway, maybe a year, maybe they're almost break even. Like, what the average founder here in Vilnius should care about? Because it's great that Draghi report maybe shook up the bureaucrats in Brussels, but what would you say that the average founder would be interested in?
So, first of all, I think if you have a few people that you work with and you have a runway, that's amazing, congratulations. And also, like everything else in your business, be very selective about what you're spending your time on and pay attention to. So it depends on what kind of regulations, on what your business does, what regulations you want to pay attention to. Obviously, GDPR, the privacy regulation, is hugely important, but it has very different implications if you are making software for children, if you're making solutions, medical solutions, if you're handling financial data. The AI Act obviously is very important. There's a new concept called regulatory sandboxes. If you are creating intense AI solutions, more than just sprinkling a little bit AI on your products or just using it to develop your software, you should look into that, because it helps you basically develop your product without worrying too much about compliance and the rules that big companies have to deal with. And those regulatory sandboxes are actually a really great concept that came out of the ideas from the Draghi report.
Yeah, totally. Erica, I saw you wanted to say something? Or?
Compliance usually is being perceived as a chaos and nightmare for a founder, because you first struggle to raise the money, and then suddenly, like, you need to focus on the product, and then suddenly you need to deal with a lot of regulation and plenty of the available legislations depending on whether you're a licensed institution that is regulated by, let's say, Central Bank of Lithuania if you're a fintech company, or you're an unregulated business. So initially, AI now eases the journey for a founder because, you know, we easily prompt and ask the questions and just get a guidance how we can navigate like AMLA, DORA, AI Act, DMA, GDPR, and all of the beautiful abbreviations that we know. But from my perspective, a privacy directive is very much important, especially for e-commerce and if you act on digital channels, to secure that the way you gather cookies, the way you distribute your data, that you have defined person who is responsible for that data in the company. Actually, in case of any kind of questions that might be received from the regulatory body, you would be prepared to do that, and of course have a consultancy on the site or internal person. In our case, with a long ID, we have compliance manager, Agnes. She's the best, I think, because she knows how to understand all of the complexities. But in general, just have the consultancy on the site, just to navigate it for a few hours, and this is how you manage the risk. But don't leave it to the last stake. One specific example, we're all having our accounting firms. Our accounting firms, by, let me guess, 15th of July, they would need to comply with the fraud prevention agency that they identify you as a CEO of the company and on the shareholders level. They have no clue about identity complexities in general. They just don't get it. And then they go to digital identity providers that are expensive. So it's just a small example so that you wouldn't leave it till the very last point when the reporting needs to happen.
Great point. We're gonna make sure to check our accountants. Remigio, AI Act was already mentioned a couple of times. It's coming into power this August. It seems like it's gonna affect more or less every startup because everyone is using AI now. In plain English, like how would you explain it to someone who's not been following and doesn't know that it's already just around the corner?
Okay, we are in Lithuania, which means in the European Union, so more or less we do understand that this regulation will apply to us. To me, the most refreshing thing was to see these American startups to suddenly realize that they apply also to them, because indirectly they are selling to the European market and so on. So for us, basically, what I would say that I cannot imagine any startup, any tech business, or actually any other business, maybe not even a bar, which doesn't use AI in some form, which means that they have another issue to comply with, all of them, all of businesses. Of course, we may say that, you know, this is kind of, okay, European Union is smart enough to at least to differentiate, like low risk, medium risk, high risk, and prohibited practices. I will not go into details about this. Some of these prohibited, I don't think they have to be prohibited, but they are, okay, they are, we will not touch them. But even for low risk, actually you don't know when you pass to the high risk. Because if you accept, for example, a CV from a potential employee and give it to AI, done. I mean, you have to have at least 10 documents in order to be safe in this case, and how to deal with this. So, I mean, this is like very serious, and of course we do not know how regulators will look to this, how severe they will be, because the range of the fines are very big, but it's very serious. So better look for our news and how we'll help you to solve this nightmare.
Thank you, Remigio. Danielo, a lot of people are here because of the funding. That's the kind of like the secret word that gets all of the founders interested in coming to events. Oh, great, sharing microphones. I was going to give you one, but so obviously you're here representing an organization that has a lot of funding programs. If you would just give like an overview now, like what people should pay attention to, any best practices for getting funding.
At first, I would like to apologize for the motion that I started this discussion. I think that's, unfair to the European Union and Commission, etc. Because, you know, at the end of the day, like, what are they doing? Like, they're trying to make our lives better. And is our life great in Vilnius? Yes, it is. You know, noticeably, it has become better because a lot of things were decided correctly. You know, and even all of this regulation, it doesn't come from, like, you know, the bureaucrats willing to, you know, control more of our lives, but rather, you know, preserve, you know, certain, or actually avoid certain bad situations, you know, with AI, like, you know, think about all those character AI and all those sex bots, etc., you know, getting kids hooked up, you know, that's bad, you know, we must avoid that. Or even with MiCA, you know, crypto regulation, you know, scammers, you know, trying to get your money, or terrorist financing, etc. You know, this is what European Commission wants to stop. You know, so like the intent is really good. You know, the Draghi report is also putting, you know, all the bureaucrats on the right lane, and, you know, organizations like ACT should really put, you know, push those bureaucrats towards the right directions. Make, you know, all those unnecessary, let's say, compliance and other things redundant, and keep the essence that is practically relevant. Now, having said that, you know, I just remembered, you know, once we were, let's say, sworn in into European Innovation Council board members, the Commissioner Zakhareva said, you know, from now on, you're only allowed to say good things. You know, because anyone can say bad things about European Commission, so many things are bad, etc. But you must switch your mind towards the positive, and, you know, therefore I'm apologizing, you know, because I'm still, you know, as a Eastern European, trying to see a lot of that. Now, having said that, European Innovation Council has created an instrument through which, in the last 6 years, it has, you know, spent 8 billion euros on deep tech innovation. And in the next framework program, it will spend 35 billion euros. And everyone from any corner of European Union is eligible to apply for that. Yet, this is a measure how to make Europe competitive in the age of technologies, you know. Like, this measure should help concentrate the research outputs of European Union, and create businesses that would be competitive, you know, with US, with China, instead of those businesses leaving to US or China. So European Commission really tries to do that. There is funding. If you're doing deep tech innovation, there are plenty of instruments, and I'm trying to dispel a lot of myths that are basically saying that, you know, it's only for French or Germans, or, you know, it's unfair, you will never win it. No, like, I know for a fact that there are so many good Lithuanian deep tech companies, you know, even think about all the biotech lasers, etc. They are all worth it to get this funding, and some of them are already getting it. So the only myth here is that you shouldn't apply. You should. You know, there is funding, 35 billion in the next 8 years.
Erika, I know that you have applied for some EU funding as a founder and successfully got some grants. What has been your experience?
So 1.5 years before, we secured a European grant of 2 million, and we're investing 1 million of our own capital to develop a long ID. In general, the experience was that, you know, we discovered that there is an opportunity to secure the funding for our spin-off product. We had an idea. Initially, what we're building the missing trust layer on the internet. The way internet started, it started without identity layer. That's the reason why we're submitting forms, we're signing through sign-in, sign-ons, we're scanning our passports, but we do not have any control of our digital identity attributes. And to secure that, we're building infrastructure, trust infrastructure, and also enabling wallets and eIDAS regulation so that you could easily control that across the borders. So it's a global solution. So in our case, when we are such heavy on the infrastructure because we're building that in a decentralized manner on the blockchain, it actually helped a lot. So the process is very lengthy. Thankfully, we have very experienced partners, and also we had a consultancy on the side. Without it, it would be a nightmare. But you need to be prepared, meaning you need to understand what you're building. The gap is that it is meant, like the R&D applications are meant for startups, but actually only already bootstrapped companies or with the track record companies could apply, because you need to have a credit score record to secure that. But in general, since it's European structural funds, in our case, are distributed through Innovation Agency Lithuania, so very happy about the process, despite of the fact that internal reporting systems are failing big time. We're still being, assessed by the Excel spreadsheets. But in general, now we have a product ready, and we're launching with the neobank in a month to secure the onboarding of a remote opening of a bank account for startups and SME companies, which is now a very complex process. So in conclusion, yes, funding is available. You need to follow the news of local agents of Lithuania, since we are here, but also talk with Danielius and discover more instruments that are on the European level. To explore that, but have consultancy on the side, because it's a very complex process still. They're trying to ease that, so let them help each of us who already got the funding. We can do some kind of changes in order to ease the process.
Great, thank you, Erika. Mike, ACT has chapters all across Europe now. I've seen you guys going to Poland, Germany, Ireland, Scotland. Maybe you have noticed something from your members, like which funding programs make sense and are worth the time, and something to highlight for people here in Vilnius?
Yeah, I would say that, AI is your friend. Ask AI what the best funding opportunities are specifically for your business. If you try and compete with the general funding opportunities, you're going to have literally thousands of competitors. If you go for specific programs, you might have much better chances. You also can ask the AI what are the criteria that they are evaluated on, what are the checkboxes that are required. But then also, when you've done all of that, put in your creativity. So when you have a request for funding, make it interesting. Ultimately, it is people who make the decisions. They might use automatic tools to make sure that you fulfill all, you have all the checkboxes checked, but ultimately they will value you based on what they believe is the potential that you have to actually make a positive difference in the EU for EU citizens. People make these decisions. These people care about their jobs. They want to have impact too. And basically, they are going to make a bet on you when they recommend you for a funding opportunity.
Mike, since we're with you and we have only a couple of microphones to share, one of the other news that were very interesting for us founders here in Lithuania is the so-called 28th regime, or EU Inc. How would you describe it for someone who's hearing about it first time, and what then a founder should pay attention to?
So there are 27 member states in the EU, and the idea is to create a 28th regime, which is the one regime that the one ring to rule them all. We can create a company using this EU Inc. format, and then use it to have a more harmonious form of corporate governance all over Europe. You can use it to reward employees in a harmonious way. If you have people all over the European Union, if you have two companies that are merging, a company in France and a company in Lithuania, in the past you kind of basically had to shut one down and have it be acquired by the other one or something like that. With the EU Inc. or 28 regime, this is much more simplified. It's also a big advantage for investors because they can basically use one set of rules for governance, which is very different than having basically 27 potential different sets of rules. They're working on the regulation right now. It's a lot of work, and it's a lot of basically pulling ropes from different member states and not wanting to give up certain areas of sovereignty, especially things like employees, employment, and judicial jurisdiction issues are still to be worked out. It will not be perfect, but it will be a very large step in the right direction. And once it passes, if you're going to start a new company, I think you would really want to seriously consider using that corporate form for your company, because it will open a lot of doors to investment and cooperation with other companies in the EU.
Thank you, Mike. Remigio, I know you've been following the 28th regime. Why should it be relevant for founders in Lithuania, and can we do anything about it? Can we, I don't know, ask our government to support us?
Yeah, I was following it before. It was cool because actually I did my PhD on competing legal systems, and this is exactly what this is supposed to be, kind of creating additional legal system instead of harmonizing existing legal systems. Which means, like, okay, one way, if we have like cross-border problems, is to make our different systems as similar as possible to each other. Another way is, of course, which I would like best, to make them similar by deregulating. And a third way, which is like now discussed in the European Union for several years already, is to create additional new corporate environment. And in a way, on one hand, I'm very optimistic because I think strategically it's a good move. Actually, Europe was getting prosperous when it had competing legal systems. It was not a pyramid, it was not monolithical. But on the other way, I would not advise to focus a lot on this. Not like an act, which is coming and will affect you very soon and very sharply, or other regulations or directives. This one is a long shot, very long shot. Maybe in 10 years it will have some positive aspect. Because if it would allow to escape from all regulatory bodies, if you, for example, establish a European company, which means that it's not Lithuanian Data Protection Agency, but some European Data Protection Agency will look for you and then will advise you and so on, and that works in all European Union, that would be a case. But that's exactly what all member states do oppose. All. Not a single one is supporting this, which means that it's a huge, very long way to go. And also, just maybe one comparison between European Union and the US, we sometimes do not realize that sometimes European Union, actually very often, is even more harmonized than United States in terms of rules and regulations. But what is not standardized is actually agencies that do implement these rules. Because if you have the National Agency for the United States, basically this means that you have a uniform approach across the United States, which is not the case in European Union, even with the most strict regulations. Whatever we have, the A Act will be implemented a little bit differently in all member states, even if its regulation and theoretically has to be the same everywhere. So, okay, that's, sorry if it's too theoretical, but I think, again, my practical advice is not to over-focus on this.
I can just feel attention and so many questions coming to you for this, Remigio, afterwards. Danielo, let's go with you. We're, nearing, I think, half an hour on our panel now, and we have a beautiful open bar. So I'm gonna ask you the same question, guys. We're in Lithuania. We're fast-moving, ambitious country, but it's a small country. There's pluses and advantages to that, and pluses and advantages of building a startup in Lithuania. Danielo, you've been an entrepreneur multiple times and building new things all the time. You could have easily moved out, but you're still here in Lithuania. Like, what is the advantage of building out of Lithuania, building in European Union?
Wow.
Give us our closing remark.
Wow. So first of all, I have my friends and family here, so it's hard to move. You know, I try to Silicon Valley, but then I come back. You know, because you are my people, so to say. At the same time, you know, we've seen a decade plus of entrepreneurial activity here, of a startup activity, and we've seen, you know, the Lithuanian unicorns emerge. With that emergence, they created skills. Skills that many of us have learned, you know, and many of those people who have learned those skills, you know, can apply those skills now, like creating their own startups. So I would say a lot of us in the very beginning, let's say 2008 or 9, you know, were experimenting. We didn't know what to do, you know, but then some of us succeeded and we started learning from each other and succeeding based on each other's track record. And now I think we are in this snowball that is creating successful companies. You know, how many companies were created from Tesonet Group? How many companies were created from Kilo and from the others? So I think, you know, we are in a snowball. We are globally competitive. Some of our skills are globally leading, and that's our edge. And therefore, you know, we have a chance and the right to compete globally and succeed. And we've seen that happening.
Woo. Erika, you're another entrepreneur. Maybe we can continue with you the same question.
So being small fish doesn't mean you can't contribute to become a big shark or contribute to the bigger ocean of the things and make more opportunities for everyone. And I think we proved that 20 years of tech industry now in Lithuania. We are being called as a hidden tech gem in Europe. Central and Eastern Europe in general is the most popular corner of Europe and more competitive in terms of investments received. Vilnius is like literally spot on where the hustling founders are being found. What I'm trying to say, we're so lucky that our Lithuanian DNA of winning, because we love to win, because we're like fans of basketball, actually shifted to the industries that are building, you know, the future for our generations. For myself, I've been in business for a few decades right now, in tech specifically. I've been always asked, like, from like big corps, like, why are you still here and why wouldn't you move, and etc. I was like, because I don't have like any like wishes to go, because I think that I'm creating impact from Lithuania to the world, and I think this is what identifies us and also gives us competitive advantage, even in comparison to Poland. Actually, Poland surpassed by GDP UK. Lithuania is growing quicker than Poland, which is again wow.
Per capita, bigger GDP than Poland.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that this community approach that we're helping each other and supporting each other gives an opportunity that you can reach out to governmental bodies like Central Bank of Lithuania if you're obtaining for a fintech license, for example, and get it done and get consultancy. So being small, it actually gives a lot of opportunities instead of being big, because then you have a more lengthy processes, more expenses on compliance, securing, like assuring stuff, and also talent that is already mentioned by Danielius. I think also played well, and we're learning very quick. And what I wish for us on the final statement, that more internationals would discover Lithuania, and we could keep hustling to the future rounds.
Yeah, Mike?
So I'm from Belgium. I grew up in Belgium. It's a very small country. I moved to the US 30 years ago, and it was basically before there was the euro. The internet wasn't very widespread, and I felt like I needed a big market to start in. If I was young again today, number one, I would be so happy, but I would not move to the US. I would stay in Belgium, because you can do you can reach the whole world, and you can have access to so much talent. You can hire people remotely, and then you can also bring them to your country and have them fall in love with it and start raising a family, and they will stay with your company much longer and be very happy, very productive employees. So I really believe in small countries and small communities, and I think it's the best time ever to be an entrepreneur in that environment.
Thanks so much, Mike, and you're like talking the talk and walking the walk by coming here to Lithuania. So, Remigijau, last remark, why Lithuania?
Yeah, actually I was in this position when I was mayor to actually pitching Vilnius and Lithuania, and I have a very good track record, not because of my good sales skills, but because of a good product to sell. So it's really the case, not just for Lithuanians, but for others as well. I think there are three short reasons. One, regulation is terrible in Lithuania, but it's a little bit better than in other countries. So that's one. On average, many things happen, but on average, so. Then, of course, we are hungry. This was mentioned, and I would like to add some spice. We got some bad neighbors here, which means that we know insiders that we have to be two heads over them, not one head. I mean, for us, it's a big inspiration to be better. I think it brings us more drive now, and we talk about middle-income trap and so on, when some Southern European countries are trapped. Our risk is a little bit not such big, because we have these crazy neighbors. We have to be stronger. It's like for Israel and neighbors, a little bit like this. And the third thing is just so nice to be there, because all the startups, entrepreneurs, these are people anyway, and they want to have some nice time and so on. And Lithuania is extremely good, so that's nice.
Thank you very much, Remigijau. Thank you guys so much for spending your time. Now the bar is open, thanks to ACT Association. Let's get a drink. Thank you guys.
Yeah, but I can do it from the other side.
Yeah, with the background of the
Yes. We need to take pictures together. Yeah, that works. I was just using the light was really good. Yeah, the light's really good over here. I'll do this one. Alright. Wow, you guys are cool. It's good, it's good. Thank you. That was fun. My next
but this was very favorable conditions, like inside the park and so on, so I was used to it. Because my idea was just my part to jump into yeah, but no, there's no such so as I say, I hope that politics are not getting so bad in order for me to wish to get back. Because life outside politics is definitely more basically, I would like to have low in general. It doesn't mean I'm kind of public figure, sometimes I comment on issues, but I try to be to channels and more professional issues. But I'm not to go into yes, and you know how the government works. Just inside there's one chance, don't want to change, so long. 4 years of ministry, and it's and before she was doing also
so busy right now. I don't see her anymore. Oh wow. You're trying to Gotta be more people.
Yeah.